So today on Sonny Talk Spurs, I am joined by a really good friend of mine. But ahead of this game, a fiery fixture. It might get even more fiery because I moved out of the flat last week and we no longer live with each other. It's Zac Djellab, the Chelsea fan. How are you doing, mate?
The Chelsea fan, is that all I am to you now?
I said good, mate. What more do you want?
There is just also YouTube extraordinaire, producer, high quality editor, sound technician. Though by the looks of this setup, I don't think anybody would believe that. Yes, I'm just in my room at the moment. But yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I think that's what I say on basically every video that I'm ever on. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. Glad to finally be on the channel.
Yes, it's been a long time coming, but I had to wait till the first time we faced each other this season. But to start, Zach, I just want to talk about really Chelsea, to start, because you've had a bit of a mixed start to the season. I think you are starting to turn a corner personally, but what have you made of it so far? Like, looking at Chelsea, their performances under Pochettino, the new era you've gone into, and also, what have you made of Spurs as well?
Yeah, I mean, from Chelsea first, it's been Chelsea for the last couple of years, to be honest. I think the exact way things have gone down. I think we have had moments where we've looked really, really good against teams that are maybe considered a better team per se. Like when you saw us against Arsenal, when you saw us against Liverpool, I think we've looked great. I think there have been games where we've also looked really poor. We still make a lot of defensive mistakes. You just have to look at the Brentford game most recently, where Chelsea for 45 minutes looked half decent, and then for the other 45 conceded a goal and just couldn't break a team that had a low block. So there's that. I think there are definitely more reasons to be positive than there were last year. I think Pochettino is somebody that kind of fits the ethos of the club a lot better. I think fans can kind of get behind him a little bit better than they did with some of the managers we had last year, namely, I guess, Graham Potter, and that's not necessarily anything against his philosophy or skill as a manager, and more so just kind of like the personnel. Pochettino is obviously a much bigger name. I think the players are kind of, I don't know, like I don't know this, but it almost feels like a little bit more respectful of Poch because they know he's done this and managed the likes of Neymar and Mbappe and so on and so forth, which I think previously I would have always said doesn't really matter, whereas now I think once you really think about it, it does. That's a level where footballers do just but they just look at a manager and go, oh, he's managed the big boys. Like, this is nothing against the likes of, and you can look where Brighton are now and really kind of see how great they've been. But the likes of, say, a Matoma or like McAllister when he first joined Brighton, nobody would have kind of given Potter a lot of credit for that. But yeah, like I think he's starting to see a little bit more. I feel like we're starting at least to see a little bit more of a philosophy with the way we want to play our football. It's not an incredible amount, but I think you're definitely seeing that against teams that are willing to kind of play a bit more football, and you can kind of see Chelsea dominate the game a little bit more. So if I had to rate it out of 10, I'd rate it at a 6. It's not as bad as it was last year. It's also not necessarily incredible. We need to, you can't just necessarily keep saying that we look better against better teams. Like the majority of teams you play against aren't as good, and they're going to drop back and sit back. And then from Postecoglou, like it's super impressive. I remember sitting on Football Daily and even when we've had chats, thinking obviously this is a guy who's never one kind of been to this level of league, and it's a huge improvement from where he's been, but two, he came in with a lot of kind of negatives that he had to deal with. He just lost a sporting director in a scandal. He just lost the star striker who had been the main way Tottenham scored goals for years. He had a pre-season which was a little stop-start due to weather difficulties and not being able to play a lot of games. And he's done an incredible job. Like, obviously, I've been very lucky to speak to him, and he does just give this, like, really nice manner, like this nice guy who may not be the Jose Mourinho of managers, which obviously you guys have dealt with as well, and have that kind of wow factor at times, but maybe he brings a little bit of a different wow factor. He's like a genuine guy who gets on with people, and because he's not having to deal with the superstar names of, say, the Neymar and Mbappe's at Spurs, it works even better. Like, they just kind of get on with him and they really like him, and it feels almost like very much I think he's very keen on still having this approach of like being the manager, and like, I am you see him keep mentioning it about like, I will be the manager and I do this, and I don't go to team bonding sessions for this, or I don't do that, or I don't coach on this day or whatever, and still has that authority, but then speaks about his players in such an amazing way where you just go, how can you not love him?
And I mean, you obviously, the place to go when we're talking about this fixture now is Pochettino. You've already mentioned him, former Spurs boss as well. You sort of like linked to it there, what you've made of him so far. But the main thing I want to ask is, have you seen any comparisons between his management style now at Chelsea and what he was like during his Tottenham days, where you've gone, oh, this is the Pochettino I know, or that I've seen in the Premier League?
I think I think like the way he deals with himself in the media, the way he is on the touchline is very similar, if not grown a little bit more in that sense as well, by kind of, as I said, managing other different players who are more world renowned. I think you're also seeing it with, say, the likes of, because this Chelsea squad is really young, but say the likes of Cole Palmer, someone who's incredibly young, hadn't featured that much. You think of when Dele Alli joined Spurs, or when Dele Alli was under Pochettino, and needs nurturing, and you can kind of see that with Poch and him, like being able to kind of give him the right amount of minutes, to shield him when he needs to be shielded, but be confident enough to let him do his thing and be a bit of a free roamer. And this is a guy that had never really been the senior figure when he was at Man City, or even really given that much of a chance, to now come into Chelsea and look like the best piece of business and the best player on the pitch at times, is a lot down to the confidence he's given by Pochettino, which is nice to see. I think he's handled himself well with certain media questions and certain scenarios, which I think I mentioned earlier that Potter didn't do as well last year. It kind of felt like Potter at times was trying to be someone he's not, whereas Poch just knows who he is and is willing to do that. I think he says all the right things about how, you know, Chelsea need to win every game. It's not about yes, this is a young squad. Yes, this is this, but this is like Chelsea. And I think for fans, that's really important to believe in him. I don't think we're as... Like, Chelsea for the last few years have always been quite fullback intensive. Like, that's how a lot of our chances are created. And when you look at Spurs under Pochettino, that was how it was as well. You think about obviously Danny Rose and Trippier, I guess. And did he have Kyle Walker as well at one point, or was that a little bit, he'd already gone by then? But anyway, it was all coming through the fullbacks, a lot of it as well, right? And I actually think we've not been as progressive with the fullbacks as possible, like, or as maybe expected, slightly due to the fact Cucurella isn't necessarily a full-blown attacking fullback. I say that he had 2 chances that he probably could have scored against Brentford, and Gusto kind of been in and out of the squad. Sassy was playing right back at a point, so you've not maybe seen it as often. When a fully fit Chilwell and when a fully fit Reece James or Gusto are there, I think we'll probably see it a little bit more. I just think the squad is still so new, man, like so new, and it's still taking time in certain games to really see the kind of way he wants to play his football. But when you get Cole Palmer, who's playing well, and like, there are still a few issues that Chelsea have sorted out, but like, it's starting to happen. It is starting to happen. Like, Enzo's been really, really good under him. Caicedo, whilst he might have started slowly, is starting to look better. Colwell, now he's playing left centre back, is really solid too. So yeah, I think it's not going too bad. As I said, the 6 out of 10 is probably where I put it. Obviously, when you compare him to how Postecoglou done, it's very different. But yeah, I think he'll want to improve, but won't be super angry with how things have gone, especially good in the injuries.
Yeah. And sticking with Poch, I think the main talking point as well has been how a Spurs fan's going to react, because this is the first time he's come back to White Hart Lane / the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium since we sacked him. And first of all, I want to give my opinion, because the main thing, and I've seen a lot of other Spurs channels say, like, oh, we're going to boo him. My opinion is, I would not, if I was at the stadium watching the game, I personally wouldn't boo him, but I wouldn't clap him either. I'd just sort of like sit there and just, I acknowledge he's probably if not our best ever manager since like Bill Nicholson. He's achieved a lot for us, even though we technically didn't win anything. But at the same time, I'd be a massive hypocrite if I was going out there going like, I think I said to you at the time when Poch was the manager, part of me was, it was bittersweet because I was like, oh, like he's gone there. But we've had AVB, Mourinho, Conte. It's quite contradictory if I then go, well, why has he gone there? Because, you know, he's a top-class manager. Chelsea are a big club, and he's been attracted to the project. So that's my opinion on it. What do you reckon to Spurs fans potentially giving Poch a bit of stick at the game?
I think you raised a good point about, like, obviously, the way it's happened otherwise with AVB and Conte and Jose. I think Poch always said, from what I remember, that it was like he'd never managed Arsenal and he'd never managed Barcelona. So in terms of like quote wise in his history, it's not too something that you can pull out and go against him. There are only so many top jobs in the world where you're able to spend a lot of money, able to have, you know, decent facilities and manage the best players in the world, or some of the upcoming best players in the world. And I think it'd be daft of him to say no to something like this. Like, whilst I think a manager can like obviously can say things about loyalty and stuff like that, things change. He got sacked. Right, he got sacked, and
exactly.
like if he'd left on his own accord, then maybe it's a little bit different. But he got sacked and really like got you guys to a Champions League final, got you playing some of the best football you've played in the Premier League era. Obviously, didn't win anything, but like gave you some of your best times since. Maybe in the Premier League era, really, since maybe Postecoglou now, or Nuno Espirito Santo's first month, and so yeah, I think it's like. I think he probably will get booed. I think he probably will have boos. I'll be surprised if he got clapped or applauded. Maybe it's just going to be like silent. I don't know, but I actually think he might get booed just because you're going to try and make the atmosphere as hard for him as possible, and go from there. And as I said, he doesn't necessarily owe you guys anything. You don't necessarily owe him anything, as I said. Like, you've had that great time and a lot has changed since then. I think one of the things that Spurs fans need to remember is that, like, whilst it ended sourly, he did say, like, a year before that this was like what would happen if he wasn't backed, and he wasn't backed. And like, it's funny that like after he got sacked is when the backing started to happen by the Tottenham board. And you almost think, like, what would have happened if, say, he got backed that year after the Champions League final, where he could have like redeveloped his squad and maybe things would have gone a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know. I just think I've seen this scenario happen so many times, and every time there's like some booing, and it wouldn't shock me if that did happen. I think it'd be really nice if there were cheers, like applaud, and also like for you guys right now, you're not going through a bad time either, so maybe that kind of positivity will spread to Poch, and I think he'll come out and be very respectful. And like I mean, who knows? Maybe things change within the game, but I don't think he's going to be running down the touchline and celebrating when if anything happens positively for Chelsea. But it'll be interesting. I mean, the words before so far between Postecoglou and Poch have been really nice, so I'd like to think it'll be calm-mannered. However, obviously, between Chelsea Spurs, the actual game itself, that doesn't tend to happen, so that might change things.
I think it's just part of the pantomime of the Premier League. You know, people just love booing and, you know, giving people stick. You said there, the atmosphere. And also, another point that I forgot to mention was, you know, Tottenham fans were singing his name before, you know, Postecoglou was appointed. A lot of Tottenham fans wanted Pochettino back. But then Daniel Levy didn't even contact him in the summer. Apparently he was open to maybe coming back, but Levy has gone down a different direction. Obviously, it's worked out for now for the best. But that's quite an interesting point.
And if things were going poorly for Spurs, like, and this game happened, then and Poch was still manager of Chelsea and it wasn't working out for Postecoglou, they might be singing his name again. Like, I think it'll. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if he was booed. But I'd like to think, especially with you guys, like I like to think you're quite a calm fan base. So
hope maybe.
So I mean, I guess give and take. But maybe it will be all right.
And one of my final questions before I get some predictions, scoreline, and predictions ahead of the rest of the season. There was talk in the summer that apparently Chelsea turned down the opportunity to sign James Maddison because, quote, he was too old. I don't know how true this is. But looking back, and I mean, you've praised him a lot. You praised him the other night when we had a conversation about him. Would he have been an ideal Chelsea player? Or now you've seen how Cole Palmer has settled, are you sort of less like regret on that part?
I don't know. In terms of the actual transfer itself, like there are so many, I don't know what to believe or, you know, whether that was the truth or not. I mean, if you look at Chelsea's transfer business, we didn't sign a player of his age or older. So there is possibility in that. It's all quite, I just find football's quite fickle because say Chelsea, like by the statistics, Chelsea are the third best team in the league. If that was the case, I don't think anybody's sitting there and going, "Oh my God, Chelsea have done this and done that," you know, or like they are now. And if this project that Chelsea are building works in the long run, then nobody will be talking about this transfer at all. I think it's done so well. I think he's been the best signing of the summer. And I also think, given the context of Chelsea's season, there are question marks whether it would have happened. Like, would he have been as successful as he has at Spurs, where he's allowed to be freer and have this deeper and have this role where he can go where he wants? And if he joined Chelsea, I don't think that role would have been given to him. And so maybe things wouldn't have gone as well, and people wouldn't be able to talk about this to this level. Look. It's very easy to sit here now and be like, yeah, Chelsea should have signed him for 40 mil. Like, of course we should have. Yes, right. If he's going to play like he does now, but maybe he wouldn't have played as he does now if we did sign him for 40 million. And who knows? Maybe that 40 million wouldn't have happened if we got involved, and suddenly that becomes a 60 million pound transfer, and things look a little bit different, or a 70 million pound transfer if Spurs were trying to outbid and so on and so forth. He is a quality player. He's exceptional, but I don't know whether it would have gone as well if he did join Chelsea. And like the actual ruling in general, people praise Brighton for signing kids and making them really good. People praise Barcelona for using La Masia guys, and so like I just think it's all given context. Like the second, say things started going well for Chelsea, suddenly everyone's going to be going, "Oh my God, look at them! They've now got the squad they've got for 10 years. How are they going to get? They're going to get so much better." So I think it's quite hyperbole basically, and that like eventually things will probably work out. I can't remember your other question towards that, but I think I might have answered it all.
No, that was it. You answered that perfectly. That was actually a very good answer.
Thank you.
Finally then, so predictions for the game and scoreline. What are you thinking? How do you see it go? And then finally, actually, who do you think is going to finish higher this season between Spurs and Chelsea?
Okay, so predictions for the game. I think... I know it keeps getting said about Chelsea and better teams, but I do think that's true. Like, if you're going to try and play football against us, we're going to probably enjoy the game a little bit more. I do think he should do what he did against Arsenal and play no Jackson and have that kind of Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher front two, if that, you know, essentially no strikers. I think that would work quite well. I think Madders needs to be man-marked. I think the job you give to Caicedo in that game, or Gallagher, depending on what you do, is go... I think. Do you remember Chelsea, Manchester United in Hazard with and Herrera? I think you just go, do amazing. Not let him go more than 5 yards away from you, because he is everything for you guys. Like, he picks up the ball in your box and then within 10 seconds is now on the edge of the other box. Like, he is just the thing that ticks everything over. Obviously, Basuma's going to be immense. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a really good game of football. I will go with a 1-1 draw. And back, like, whilst I do give all these compliments to Chelsea against better teams, we still struggle in front of goal. Like, we still struggle to put the ball in the back of the net. And so... yeah, I'll go with that, hoping that it works out that way. Like, if you offered me that now, I'd snap your hand off, just like I would have against Arsenal. But then when the context of the game happened, I was quite annoyed. So I'll go with a 1-1 draw. I think Pedro Porro is someone we should really go at. I think Doggy's amazing. I think Van de Ven's amazing. I think Romero's been really good. But I think Porro is your, like, weak spot defensively. And so, yeah, I think if we can target him, it'll be interesting whether Mudryk plays or not. I think there's gonna be some really good battles all over that pitch. So like Enzo versus Basuma, stuff like that's gonna be really interesting. And obviously then you've got Vicario in goal, who's just been an amazing shot stopper and really good with the ball at his feet, to be fair. So yeah, I reckon 1-1 draw. Hopefully a 2-1 win Chelsea, but a 1-1 draw is what I'll say on camera. And then I reckon, just due to the start you've had and like how great you guys look, and like there's also just a thing happening with Spurs where you're just winning. Like even if you have games where you've been poor, you still get it over the line. So fair enough. Like that Luton game that me and you watched together, like you just get it over the line every time, which is impressive. So yeah, I think you guys will definitely finish above us. I think you guys have probably got top 4 in the bag. Like the only thing that can knock you guys down is if like you get a Maddison injury, or even maybe a Basuma injury, but more so a Maddison injury.
Yeah, I mean, my predictions ahead of it is I think pretty much what you've said, but I think weirdly, and you know what I'm like as a Tottenham fan, I'm very glass half empty. I'm quite positive going into this. I think us being the home team helps tenfold. I think the atmosphere is going to be great, you know, under the lights for the 3rd game week in a row. Tottenham fans are just really loving what they're seeing at the moment. I think we'll just edge it 2-1. I think the goal scoring thing is quite pivotal there. I think you mentioned it. Like, I think as long as we can control that midfield battle, as long as Sarr and Basuma are on top form, I see you like winning it in that. The way you create that box of Caicedo, Enzo, and Gallagher and Palmer. I think that's where we got to try and not get overrun in that position. Yeah. And I think you're right about Pedro Porro as well. If he gets a bit more protection, I think we'll be fine defensively. It's just as long as we stay on top in an attacking sense, I'd be positive about that. And then in regard to who's going to finish higher, see, this is tricky because I think you're turning a corner and you're going to get into some form. Us depends on, you know, Son's got the Asia Cup. We've got Basuma and Sarr going to AFCON. That's when the season is going to be.
When does the Asia Cup happen?
In the top 4. I think February.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know, it's a similar like ballpark, isn't it, of time of year. So I think as long as we have enough points on the board, like I'm confident we could get 5th or top 4 this year, but the proof's going to be in the pudding, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I really do. You just got to hope that like because Cucurella will probably start, so like it's just hoping that he's been quite solid, to be fair, but just no mistakes. Like, I'm fine.
No hair pulling from Romero this time round.
Jesus. But like I just want a better game. Like, honestly, last year away to you guys, we were so bad. Like, I want to come away from it being like, we played well. So, yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood.
Well, there we go then. I mean, I'll be honest, I teed you up at the beginning as one of my very good friends, but I'm very glad I'm not going to be watching the game with you this time round because I think that was some of the worst moments we had as housemates, flatmates, whatever you want to call it. But thanks very much, Zach, for jumping on. That was a very enjoyable conversation. It didn't get heated, did it? So we're quite well that in that regard. But anything you want to plug for yourself? Obviously, I'll put your socials in the description down below. You can see him usually on Sky Sports News. Talking a lot of sense, hopefully, about football. Anything you want to plug?
I have no idea, mate. Well, if you want to see like me, obviously Football Daily. I'm sure you guys have seen me and Sonny on that together. Come check us out on there. If you want to follow my socials, check out my Instagram, check out my Twitter. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, that's for sure.
Yes, well, thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And I'll see you after the game where hopefully Tottenham pick up the 3 points. But yeah, cheers, bye-bye.